What was your strategy for GS in mains?
So this year I changed my strategy. I remember in one of the messages you text.
What was your experience with CAVA and the Pincer?
So it was an excellent experience. First of all, it gave a lot of content, and more than that, it was a great confidence booster.
Have you been asked this question in UPSC interview in the last 3 attempts about being a doctor? Why are you coming for this?
So I appeared in 4 interviews.
Hello students, today we have with us Yashvardhan Singh, who has secured rank 212 in CSE 2025, who has also secured ranks in the previous attempts. We will be discussing about his preparation, his strategy. He has an optional of medical science, and this was his 4th attempt. Hello, Yashvardhan. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right. So, can you tell us briefly about your preparation journey?
So I started my preparation during my MBBS days. So my first attempt was in my final year, that was 2022 attempt. So at that time I was completing my internship.
You have done your MBBS from King George College.
George's Medical University. So my preparation started around that time also. So after that, my journey with the NEXT IAS started after my 22 attempt. For 23, I joined mains test series as well as mains advanced course, and that continued, and that is continuing till now.
Till now also. Why are more doctors coming towards UPSC preparation?
Sir, if we see the proportionately, there has been some increase if we compare it to the past few years. But if we see proportion-wise, there are still less number of doctors that are coming proportionately if we see, but currently we see that the exposure of the doctors are increasing. For example, one of my batchmates got into the IAS last year, so some of juniors in my college, they also started to preparing for it. So I think that is that can be an example why they are coming for it. Second is that when we are in the MBBS, when we are in our medical journey, our exposure increases, our connection with the society increases. So we see civil services as an extension of our medical services. So we see that we can also contribute to our nation in the civil services as well. So I think that is the primary reason.
Have you been asked this question in UPSC interview in the last 3 attempts about being a doctor? Why are you coming for this?
So I appeared in 4 interviews, so it was asked once.
Okay.
I'm not in rest of the interviews.
What was asked?
So it was asked that what was the reason that why are you switching your career, your professional career from medical to civil services?
Okay. So 4 years of journey, multiple attempts. What is it something that you believe you should have known sooner with respect to the preparation?
So one is that unlearning is equally important in this journey, because what happens, there is so much of sources. This journey has been different from my NEET journey. UPSC journey has been different because when I was preparing for NEET, there were very limited sources that were available. There were very few locations where you have to go for preparation. So getting a chance itself was difficult. But in civil services, there was a lot of material that was there. So the unlearning part was very relevant and equally important. So earlier attempt, I learned a few wrong things. So I have to unlearn those things and get on the right path. It might be related to answer writing also. It might be related to interview preparation also the prelim test series, how to approach the mocks. So that was the important learning.
So I think it was Dipin sir who said there is content terrorism.
Yes,
there is so much of content in the overall availability.
Yes, sir. He used to give the example of chef and cook, how you need to differentiate your content, how you need to prepare your content.
Okay. You're someone who has cleared multiple prelims.
Sir.
What kind of advice would you give to people who are appearing for prelims right now?
So one is that stick to the foundation. There is no alternative your foundation. That might be the NCITs or might be your foundation course or might be your standard sources. Because what happens when we are in the cycle, my second prelims was just 5 days after the result of the final result. It was announced on 23rd of May and the second prelims was on 28th May. So I just got 5 days of time for the preparation of next prelims. But that foundation saved me somehow, that I was able to clear that prelims also. So I then sticking to the basics and sticking to the foundation is key for clearing the prelims.
So is there any subject areas that you focus on or you prepare overall?
So overall, I focused on all the subjects. There was nothing that I left completely. But subject-wise, if I see that environment, science and technology, polity, these are the areas that I focused more. But there was no area that I left completely blank. I tried to complete each and every subject and each and every subtopic also for examination.
Was it test intensive or more of reading intensive? Did you solve a lot of papers in prelims?
Sir, in different examination cycle, it was different. Earlier, I was focusing on test, but later on, I began focusing more on revision aspect. That I minimized my content and went for the multiple revision.
Okay. So how many tests do you normally give before prelims?
So in last attempt, I think around 6 to 7 tests I gave in 2025 attempt.
Okay. And what is your test process after you give the test? How do you analyze and what kind of exercise do you do?
So we had a close group of around 4 to 5 friends. Some are my seniors also. So after every test, we used to discuss those questions, those test papers, that what was the source of these questions, and each and every one of us used to give a contribution that what can be the additional questions that can be asked, from where that question was asked, and what he or she knows about that question. That extra information was added due to that discussion.
That's very interesting. Was there an attempt ratio that you followed? Were you someone who gave more than 90?
Yes, sir. I attempted more than 90.
Okay. And that has been productive for you?
Yes, sir. For me, it has been productive.
Being a doctor, were you afraid of CSAT?
Sir, yes, sir. I was. That CSAT is very important aspect. We need to give due attention to the CSAT as well. And in one of my attempt, I was just able to clear CSAT by 0.6 number.
Okay.
So I think that CSAT is equally important and we cannot ignore it.
Okay. So coming from prelims to mains.
Yes, sir.
I think you have an advantage and disadvantage having medical science as an optional.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me more about this?
So the advantage was that I was familiar with the subject. I was able to understand the basic nitty-gritties of it. So covering syllabus in the first reading was somewhat easier if I compare with the other optionals. But the revision became difficult because it is very
time consuming.
It is a very time consuming because there have been certain keywords that have been mentioned in the syllabus, like national programs of health of India. There are multiple programs that are learning. So for that particular heading, we have to cover a lot of syllabus. So for revision, it requires a lot of time.
So would you advise a student from MBBS background to take medical science or anthropology?
So personally, I can say that medical science is also a good optional and it can be considered. Okay. We have certain advantages, we have certain pros. That should be a very thought out decisions, because we have seen that medical science this year all India rank 1 is also medical science, and I have my many friends who are into the service with the medical science optional as well, and also with the anthropology optional. So I think that this decision should be guided by the inclination
of the person.
Yes.
And is there enough guidance available, material, classes, tests for medical science for UPSC?
So I followed my basic approach, like the things that I learned in my MBBS. My sources remained the same. For that optional also, I went to my original source that I read during my MBBS journey. So there is sufficient resources that are available as of now.
What was your strategy for GS in mains?
So this year I changed my strategy. I remember in one of the messages you text, it was around 1 month back, and that time you texted that from now on you should focus 80% on writing and 20% on reading. So this year's strategy was different, that I focused more on answer writing. So this strategy was different from the earlier there.
So what kind of questions were you solving? Did you solve a lot of PYQs?
So PYQs also, and some questions that have test series based questions. I wrote certain GATs also. So that was
GATs are the graded assessment tests, which were part of CAVA.
CAVA course. Right. And also I wrote daily answer writings based on the PYQs also. Sir.
Okay. So were you writing in a time-bound manner, or were you free writing it? Like, so would you write a 1 hour or a full paper? What was the strategy?
So I was writing on the daily basis. I was writing like 1 hour or 1.5 hours, 10 questions or 15 questions. But on certain days of the week, I was also writing that full paper also.
Okay. One full paper or more than one full paper?
Sir, I have written more than one.
Full paper.
Full paper. Right. Also for the essay, I have written multiple essays.
Multiple essays. And with respect to GS, what was your post-test exercise? After you write a test, after it is evaluated or after it is reviewed, what do you do?
Sir, I took help of, it was evaluated, but I also took help of some of the teachers also.
Right.
I discussed with them that what can be improved. And also I discussed with some of my seniors who are already in the service, and I take their evaluation that what can be improved answer-wise also, and also in terms of presentation, how this answer can be made more presentable, how introduction and conclusion can be improved.
Okay. Was your answers more value-added? Because I think being a doctor, I think one of the advantages that you have is that you can make good diagrams. Were you able to leverage that?
Sir, I leverage for value addition. I mostly relied on the Dipin Sir's notes, CAVA program. I went for the intensive revision of CAVA notes, so that was a source for value addition. And for that, the basic structuring of answer, I tried to break the subcomponents of the questions, that what are the subcomponents, and I tried to address all the subcomponents of that question.
Okay. What was your experience with CAVA and the PINSA?
So it was an excellent experience. First of all, it gave a lot of content, and more than that, it was a great confidence booster.
Okay. And were you able to bring everything that sir is teaching in the class into the papers?
So, sir gave one of the trick that whatever content that I give you, you should sit with yourself or your friend, and you should try to analyze that how you can bring this content in different questions. So this exercise I try to do, that how that CAVA content can be brought into practice in different kind of questions. So that has been helpful, sir. That content was helpful in some unrelated question also that were not related to the topic that sir taught, but somewhere it was related.
Okay.
And one example is that there was a social capital question in GS4. Sir never taught the GS4 classes, but social capital he taught from the point of view of GS2.
Yes.
So that GS2 question content that he gave was useful for the GS4 also.
And were you active with the GATs and the regular class practice answer writing?
So the questions that sir used to give, I tried, although I was an online student, but I tried to write all the questions that sir used to give during the class also.
Were the videos consumed at 1x or 1.5x?
So I think mostly they were at 1x.
1x only, right. Okay. Now, coming to your other courses that you have done at NEXT IAS, you have done something called as Economy Through Questions.
Yes,
Can you tell me more about it?
So it was, first I attended the course of Vibhasja sir in the mains advanced course. So, but there was certain restriction that sir could not take all the topics, time restriction was there. So I specifically bought the economy course where he tried to complete all the economy topics specifically for mains through questions. And the best part is that he used to write all the answers on the blackboard.
Okay.
If that the question is related to 150 words or 250 words, he will write the answer in 150 words. So that was certain kind of exceptional because it is somewhat rare.
And that requires a lot of clarity and knowledge.
Sir. And also it is rare for such a senior faculty member to write the question in 150 word or 250 words. We can get model answer, but it is rare for such a senior faculty to write the answers
on the board. Right. Now, you were also part of the mains test series.
Yes,
How did you find the questions?
So it was very excellent for the revision point also. And after the mains test series also, NEXT IAS used to give certain probable list of questions.
I think we hit some questions also.
Yes, sir. For every topic. So that served two purposes. First was that of revision. We in the last 2 weeks specifically, and also it was a confidence booster. Just before the examination we had certain kind of confidence that we have completed, revised again all the probable topics.
Right. This year for the interview you have secured 199.
Yes,
that is almost a 50 marks jump from the previous interview.
Yes, sir.
What strategy worked for you?
So one is that less of preparation. Don't prepare much. It is just conversation.
Be yourself.
Be yourself. That was the strategy that we discussed also. That just be yourself. And
did you give a lot of mocks this time?
So I gave mock, but the mock were confined just for the practice purpose, for the communication purpose. But the kind of feedback that we received, that needs to be filtered.
Right. You just need to do the mocks for more questions and
Yes,
what kind of questions will
Yes,
come. Right. And how was your experience with mock at NEXT IAS?
So it was an excellent
You
experience.
gave the main mock out here.
I gave both the mocks, faculty as well as
main mock.
bureaucratic.
Right. Okay. And was there any overlap between the mocks that you gave and the UPSC mocks? When was your interview?
So it was on 18th of February.
18th of February. Okay. Right. So was the questions more on your home state or more on your medical science?
So I think that it was a mix of all the things, current affairs as well as hometown, medical background also.
Okay. Now, a couple of questions that we ask is one, physical notes or digital notes?
So I have made physical notes because ultimately we have to write in the physical copy itself.
And I think it's a doctor's training also. I think you're used to writing physical notes.
So I am using, yes, sir, that is the reason.
And it's more concise because when you have to write, you don't write everything. You write only what is needed.
Yes, sir.
Right. How did you deal with screen addiction during preparation?
So screen addiction, that I limited the social media uses, that I was only confined to basic essential like WhatsApp only. I was not in other social media platforms. So that was one of the things that restricted my social media interaction.
Was there a timeline that you restricted, or you were like, there were students who said, I'll only pick up the phone when I'm having food, or only check my phone in the evening? Did you have such restrictions?
So mostly, sir, since I am also a doctor, so I used to get a lot of emergency calls also.
Were you practicing also?
I was practicing for some time, but even after I was not practicing, I used to get certain emergency calls. So I used to take all the emergency calls, but other calls I used to avoid, like discussion calls. But if there is a medical emergency,
and you avoided social media?
Sir, I avoided social media. Yes, sir.
Use of AI in your preparation?
So I used artificial intelligence for the content aggregation and segregation. For example, that for medical science also, it can bring all the content that is available in the one place.
Okay.
Like what are the various technical modalities that are newer for the treatment of certain diseases, what are the new studies that are being done. So artificial intelligence can bring all the studies in one place. It can save time.
Okay. You're the first person from the family to secure a service?
Yes, sir.
All right. So it's a first generation officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any message that you want to give to future aspirants, especially doctors who are looking at preparing for this exam?
So one is that coming into this preparation cycle should be a well thought out decision. We should be aware about what are the pros and cons of this examination cycle. And first you should invest some time in finding the right mentors, right teachers. And once you have found the right mentors and right teacher, you should try to follow them, whatever they say you. So I think that this is the only thing that...
Right. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and all the best for a great career in the services.
Thank you very much, sir.